Hello, everyone. You're listening to the currently untitled CCPC podcast. Today, we have the wonderful Claire Cho joining us today. Hello, Claire.
Hi.
You seem a little nervous. Are you nervous?
I'm not nervous. The introduction was weird.
I mean, we're trying to get into it. You get your okay today?
Time out. You're gonna call it untitled?
Well, we don't know the title yet. So.
I thought it was B cut.
So it's for the listener. We are trending towards it being named the B-sides, but for now, when we don't have a full title yet, we're just going to call it the Untitled Podcast, and we'll just edit that in later into the title with our editing powers. So,
okay, is this for real? Are we for real
this
right
is for
now?
real. It's always for real.
Okay,
this has been for real for a long time now. Claire, my first question to you, Claire, before we even start anything, is what is your favorite game to play of all time? Do you like games that you're good at or games that are fun? Or is it the same thing to you?
I think it's fun to win.
It's fun to win? Yeah, I've noticed that.
I think my favorite game is definitely Spot It.
Is that your favorite game?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, I feel a little bit bad for not playing you every time then, but
it's okay. No one wants to play with me.
So for those of you who don't know, Spot It's like a matching game, and Claire is like ridiculously good at it. I really don't know how she got so good at it. Do you have any inkling to how you got so good at it?
I don't know. I think it's like the first game that's like my language, It's all visual.
It's all visual?
Yeah, so I don't have to try to understand it. I just have to be.
Yeah, like I would stare at this board for like a minute and not notice it, and Claire would have 10 matches already, and I'd just be so lost, and I just give up. Yeah, pattern recognition, exactly. So I guess that relates to the topic that, we would probably go into talk about today, which is your career path. You are... Well, what would you say if you were to give yourself a title? What would your occupation, career, generally lean towards?
I think overarching label I would give myself is a creative, but experience-wise, I consider myself an apparel CMF designer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what does the term creative mean to you? Because I think one of the things you struggle in Nova is that there's not a lot of creatives in the area, right? So what would you say would be a good definition of that?
That's kind of hard of a question. I've never really thought that deep into it.
True.
Because I'm not thinking oh, how am I a creative or why am I a creative?
You just know.
I just know. I've was born and then painted,
Painted.
I just started drawing for as long as I can remember.
Really? So do you happen to remember the first things you were drawing, or what got you into it, or is it just your entire life you've been into it?
I mean, my mom is also creative. She has a history of doing textile design, graphic design, painting. So I think growing up, I've always been accustomed to doing very artistic things. If she was helping for VBS during church, I would be next to her, making a leaf or making some landscape for church. So it was I think I grew up very accustomed to seeing her doing creative things. So it was very natural for me. It's not a label that I picked up. It was almost more like a lifestyle of expressing things in a very artistic manner.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then that transition to your college, right? You went to the Maryland Institute and College of Art. Is that right?
Yeah, Maryland Institute College of Art. Mm-hmm.
And you also majored in textiles, right?
Yeah, so I originally went in for painting, fine arts, because I think that's the natural way I express my imagination or thoughts. And then I've always been fascinated by color and material, even in fine arts. And then I met a bunch of skater friends, sneakerheads, just was always into fashion. And the major that I got attracted to was textile design. And then I minored in fashion as well.
Gotcha. So I think a lot of us don't really have an idea of what it looks like to be a major in the arts, right? So could you give us a snapshot of what a day in the life would look like?
A snapshot. So our classes are usually 6 hours long.
Oh,
so
I can't sit still for a minute anymore. So
no, but it makes sense because we need time to create art. We need time to create good work. And so time goes by really fast. There's morning classes and night classes. So if you wake up at like 9 a.m., it will go up until like 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. And then if you start class at 6, it'll go till like 10 p.m. So it was like very different, I think, automatically schedule wise from like a lot of the peers that would go to like Johns Hopkins or like very normal universities. And yeah, I think the college itself, any art school pushes you to like think outside the box. And so I've like met a lot of unique people. I think like we're always outside, like gathering inspiration or training our imagination to think a certain way. I think we're like always in our sketchbook. I think we're always like drawing. Sometimes like the teacher will teach us like a couple things, but most of the time it would be us like discovering ourselves and challenging ourselves as an artist. Um, yeah, I think we learn by like constantly practicing or playing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm sure you guys had, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
CNF or CMF? And what does it stand for?
What's CMF or CNF?
It's color material finish designer.
Thanks.
CMF.
I totally missed that. Thank you, Chris. So could you repeat that one time? You don't have a timeout, Claire. You could just tell us.
I can't. This is too serious.
Well, it's not that serious.
I want to start over.
You wanna start- this isn't for a grade. Don't worry about it. It does have to be a little bit more
It's like,
of the serious side.
Like normal. Like I want to talk normally to you, but then every time someone talks to me about my work, I think I definitely change my demeanor.
That's fair. I think. Do you think you separate? But you're so into your work in general, right? Like that's very much like who you are. So do you think that's weird that it's kind of like you're adding a barrier between that?
I don't consider myself I don't consider it a barrier per se, but I do think I become a little more passionate or serious about the things that I'm doing.
Okay,
If that makes
definitely
sense.
makes
I think like
yeah.
everyone has like a work voice. I don't know if I would consider
yeah.
it a work voice, but
Customer service voice.
yeah, I think I am more trained to talk more articulately about the things that I care about.
Yeah, I think no matter what, when we talk about your career, it's gonna be a little bit more like serious and refined. I don't think we're gonna ever get past that, But like, what would you say are differences between Baltimore people and Nova people? And this has to be Baltimore people as a whole and Nova people.
We're
as
getting
a whole.
into heated categories.
Heated categories. Yeah, that's that was one of the main focuses of this podcast, but we decided to cut that. But what do you mean?
Oh shoot. I think in Baltimore there is a larger like level of disparity or like privilege. Like I don't know what the word is for it, but when you like travel or like drive by, like the neighborhoods change really, really fast from like the privilege to like people who don't live as well.
So more diverse is what you're saying.
There, like I think the disparity is more large. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah.
For it. And I think because it's like still somewhat of a small city, there is like a transience about it. And I think Maryland people in general are kind of more down or more spontaneous, in my opinion.
Ooh, I think, Nova people get I don't know if it's a bad rap, but about being so caught up in their work and their
Flaky?
life. Yeah, flaky. Oh man, we're really getting into it these days.
A little bit. I mean, I think, yeah, I think they can be a little bit flaky.
That's fair. I do you think that's like, what do you think that's a byproduct of? Just having different focuses, or
I don't know.
It just happens.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I do like when I came back to like Nova, I don't know if this is like a like church thing. Are you sure you want to get into this? I feel like this is very controversial.
Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah, we can cut it. We can cut anything that we don't like. So
I do feel like when I came back to Nova, like people already had a certain group that they're a part of. And so I think I automatically realized that it's like very hard for new people to kind of feel like they belong, or find a group, or find people that they want to get close with. I mean, I definitely got lucky because I already had people that I grew up with that were a part of the church. But I think in that way, it's like very difficult because I don't think people are intentionally trying to be cliquey. I think it's more just a level of comfort that they have with certain people. And so it kind of seems like from the outside, like a group. And I think because like in Baltimore, I mean, this could also be because I was in college, but it seemed like more transient. So therefore, there wasn't necessarily groups, but I think people were more open to getting to know each other or down to do things. I mean, there isn't that much to do in Nova.
Whoa! Look, we have bowling and hiking and
compared to
hey,
compared to a city, you know what I mean?
Compared to a city.
Compared to a city.
I mean, DC might be different, but I get your point. I think community is something. I mean, this podcast is one of me. We're trying to get to know the community better, so I think there's definitely a lot of truth in that. You're talking about comfortability and like kind of privilege in Nova. Do you think a lot of this stems from that, from just us being able to be, in a really good area of the country, that we're able to kind of not push ourselves in certain areas?
Oh yeah, 100%.
100%. Did I just take the words out of your mouth?
I think people sometimes can be too comfortable here, like complacent actually. And it's not like anyone's fault. I think I recognize that I'm also very privileged and I grew up very privileged. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a blessing. But in terms of like, I guess, faith and the Christian walk, I think it's if your like ultimate goal is to continue to be like sanctified or grow, I think that's very hard to do in a complacent lifestyle.
Gotcha. Do you ever feel yourself falling into complacency being in Nova for the past couple years now, or do you think you've been staving that off good enough?
A little bit, but I think as a person, I do really value like learning, and I do really value growth. So I do often place myself in situations where I'm not comfortable with, or I try to push myself in that manner. But I think being in Nova and being privileged, growing up in a nice home and having a certain group of friends, like it's very easy to fall into that complacency. Yeah, and I think it's like even harder to call yourself out on it and be like, because I think comfort's not a bad thing,
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think it's it can be so easy to fall into that trap in Nova where everyone's a government contractor, everyone's a coder or a PM or something, right? So yeah, that's such a tough thing that we're dealing with.
But I think that's, if compared to other places, I think that's like a battle that Nova has unique to them. Because yeah, I think something that I like miss a lot, or really respect or admire about people, is when they're very like passionate about Christ or passionate about something, that they're gonna be able to walk and act on faith and be bold in their lifestyle. Like I miss that because I think in certain places it's not comfortable, so they're used to acting on faith or doing very bold things. And I think living here, like that's our challenge, right? To like surrender our comfort sometimes. And when God asks us to do sometimes things that might not be the most comfortable for us, like are we up for that challenge?
It's kind of transitioning a little bit. I know you're heading towards the Mexico short-term mission, right? You're volunteering to be part of that.
Yeah.
Can you make a quick rundown of the mission itself, like where you guys are going, what's up? Not everyone probably knows, so
I really hope I don't butcher this.
We're gonna cut it in post, don't worry.
But
like when are you going? First question.
So training starts April, the last few weeks of April, and then it'll go for a couple weeks, and I think we're gonna depart I don't know, like July, August,
okay.
Like end of the summer kind of. And it's based in Mexico City, and we're working with an organization called El Pozo de Vida.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah. I hope it's correct.
Hey, training doesn't start for another couple weeks. You're fine.
Yeah, but their whole thing is rescuing or providing a place of refuge for victims of human trafficking. And they also aren't, it's not just about rescuing, but kind of offering like rejuvenation through the gospel as well. So I think that's like really cool. I think their motive isn't to just like help them out and like save them in a way, but it's also about like giving them skill sets or abilities to continue to live life. Which is like, it sounds like very like small or very like basic, but I don't know, when you like put yourself in their shoes and think about like what they had to go through, like I think that like basic thing of having a skill set to like live life is like such a big thing to share with them. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll learn more as I train and join. But I'm excited for it because I definitely have like a huge heart for mercy ministry and just like people who are broken and like non-Christians, or I think I have a huge heart for people outside of the church.
That's great. Yeah. And do you know where that came from, or is it just always been on your heart?
I think so this is also very controversial.
Don't worry about it.
I think growing up as a creative, I've always felt like an outsider to the church. And I think I've grown accustomed to thinking that like the church actually, this could be controversial, but the church actually does not know what to do with creatives or how to incorporate them in church. I think it's like very interesting because I think what's often preached at the pulpit is our worth is in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes I think creatives are used for their skills, and it's very hard to not believe that our worth is in our work. And so in that way, I think I've seen a lot of creatives get hurt in the church and even oftentimes leave or not come to faith. And that like really saddens me as a Christian and as a creative. I'm kind of like, I forgot the original question.
Yeah, no, go on. You're good. Unless you just don't have any.
Oh, yeah. So then, but I think seeing like that like brokenness in creatives, I think like started to stir that pot a little bit of thinking about like what it means to be an outsider and who the outsiders are. And then I think obviously also like in the gospel, like it's often talked about how Jesus would sit with people who aren't considered in the in crowd, right? And I think that also spoke volumes to me because I think a lot of people can relate, but like Jesus shares the gospel or loves on people like me, like outsiders, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't have to be a certain way to be accepted by Christ. And I think that's like very encouraging to me and something that I want to share with people who've had that same struggle. And I think even growing up, I used to be very, very sick. And I think, I think my close friends know a little bit about my testimony. But yeah, I was like very sick when I was young, and I, would have like a gallon size bag of meds. Like I would not be able to go to high school that much. Like I would go to school, but most of my time was at the doctors or in the hospital. Or like if I am at home, I'd be in my bed like sick, right? And so I think that it was a blessing in disguise because I think I was able to develop a unique relationship with Christ that a lot of people may not be able to have, because like, when you're in your bed, there's like nothing to do, right? And like, I think that space and time gave me the opportunity to get to know God in a very real and intimate way. But yeah, I think being sick and also feeling like, because of that, feeling like an outsider at school even, or at church, or not being able to do certain activities that people normally would be able to do, like that I think also gave me a perspective of what it means to be an outsider. And then, all of this like led to going to college, right? And I'm like well now, like like in a way like miraculously, but healed in a way, right? And like, but that mentality of being an outsider never really changed. Like I got better physically, but that doesn't mean like those experiences I had in the past didn't affect me. And I think I was very aware of people who felt like they didn't belong, or people who were on the outside in college. And going to college, I think there was a bunch of people like me. There was people who were struggling with homosexuality, people who are struggling with drugs, people who are struggling with broken homes, like people. It was like different types of people in college that I think um all like all joined at one place through the language of art, through the universal language of art. And yeah, we're there. And like my freshman year, the first thing, I don't know if people remember, but the first thing that happened was the Freddie Gray riot. And my first year in college was cars burning and Rite Aids robbed. And yeah, just these like huge riots happening. And it was because like this man got technically like in a way murdered by the police, right? And so I think I saw like a bigger version of what it means like to be an outsider, or a bigger like visual of brokenness in a city, like in a race, in a culture, like in people that I think really called to me, that I like wanted to minister to. And I think just like even art being a universal language that people don't have to learn but understand from the soul or heart or mind, like puts me in an interesting position to be able to share the gospel in a way that can be like connected to in a way without like English per se, you know? So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that really answers your question.
Honestly,
So
I also don't remember the question anymore, but I think that answered it pretty well. Going back to how creatives could be utilized well at church, right? I think for you, what might that look like? Maybe like examples or past examples, a general outline of how you feel like you and other creatives could be better utilized.
yeah, I think I don't think creatives are just meant for creatives. I think God gave us this gift for people who aren't creative. Because I think creatives have the unique ability to share uh, the truth, or share stories, or share the gospel even in a way that again can be reached to people who like may not speak English, or just like, because I think art is a universal language, I think God has meant to use that to share the gospel in a unique way. And I think if that gift is like tapped into correctly, I think if anything, like collaboratively doing art together, or you know, like creating together and sharing that gospel outside of church is a huge way to evangelize and share the gospel.
Having avenues that they can go through, like having things that they could be part of, is that like what you're saying?
Yeah, I think like mindset, right? Like I think when we like think of the church, I think it's so easy to forget that it's a church full of different types of people. And I think being able to like cater to that um like helps, because like I don't know, I think
And
some
we're a church for all people, so for
yeah,
sure, yeah.
but then oftentimes like I think like because like churches can also be broken, I think oftentimes there are groups of people that have a like hard time finding a home church, right? Because they don't feel like they belong, because it's almost as if a church only accepts certain types of people. But like in reality, it's like if we were to include everyone, like let's say creatives for example,
For example.
you would have access to a different type of toolkit that can be used to evangelize to non-Christians. I mean, I don't know how that would like work, right?
Definitely. But I mean, again, it is something to think about more.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Chris is listening to his headphones and he's flinching
No,
every
when
time
I
he
get
hits the
passionate,
table.
I like move my arms a lot.
We might need to have like special areas for people to hit. Like,
Can you get like a beanbag? Like,
yeah. Where do you think is the most creative place you've been to? I don't know if that's a word to say it. I know you
Creative place,
Yeah.
like a location.
like where you felt most at home. Like I know you've been to a lot of places. You love traveling the globe. You were in Amsterdam. You're in
I did
Boston.
live in Amsterdam.
You're
Yeah,
in
I lived in
Baltimore.
Boston.
Baltimore. You were in Nova. Anywhere else I'm missing? Germany. Not really.
Oh, we don't talk about Germany.
Oh, we don't talk about Germany.
Yeah,
Okay.
I almost got kidnapped in Germany. We don't talk about
okay.
Germany.
We don't talk about Germany. But maybe just countrywide, do you think Amsterdam felt like a different place altogether for creatives, or do you think it was similar and similar issues there as well?
I think there's different issues everywhere. Like, I don't think there's a more creative place than well, okay, Nova is not that creative. But I think relatively, like, yeah, cities have more creatives in them, which makes sense. But I do think, like, Europe in general, like, is cracked because, like,
It's cracked.
it's cracked
Explain
because
cracked.
It's great.
it's just like I think in America, like, for example, like, when you grab coffee, it's like to go, right? In Europe, when you grab coffee, you sit down for an hour to enjoy coffee. Like, the lifestyle is different. And I think it gives more like inspiration or encouragement, or like, I think the lifestyle is more suited for creatives there. The trains are like accessible. Like, you could just travel anywhere in Europe, and there's so much like different varieties of culture packed there. So in a way, like, it's definitely easier for creatives to thrive. But like, I don't know, living in Amsterdam versus like living in Boston, I wouldn't say like one was more creative than the other.
Probably what you
um,
made out of it, right? That's the big thing.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I would like even argue like the most creative place I've been might have just like been at home in my head.
That's
Right?
good point. Yeah.
It's like how much you tap into your imagination at that moment in time, I think.
Yeah.
But this kind of sounds like I'm high,
No,
but I'm not.
no, we would not promote that on the church podcast either.
Okay,
So
cut that out. Cut that out.
Sounds like I'm high, but
do you think you have like an illustration for your Christian walk in those different seasons of your life?
Do
don't
I
know.
have an illustration of my Christian walk?
Like God's faithfulness in those times throughout your life? Times where you just were like in an unfamiliar city, maybe, but
I mean, there's too many.
just pick
God
one.
is very, very faithful.
I agree.
No, but he has been very faithful and good to me in my 25 years of life.
Mhm.
And I think there have been like many moments in my life where there's like legit so many. I mean, I think even being well enough to go to college, like, that was him being faithful. He didn't have to heal me, but he did. And then even picking out the school, I really wanted to go to New York, but then I was like very convicted to go to school at Micah. And I think, like, honestly, like, I don't know if I would be like in the same place that I am if I went to school in New York.
Is that through just struggles that you experienced at Micah, or the good stuff, or just the amalgamation of everything?
Yeah, like everything. I think God really blessed my time at Micah with people who love Christ in very unique, radical ways. Our school is a private school, so we had people from all over the nation come study there. And I think something that's automatically different from off the bat is we don't have like a Christian, like Asian Christian community thing, like GCF, or I don't know what you call it. We didn't have that. We had like a multiracial, like, small group kind of, and they were of all different denominations, but like we couldn't be picky.
Yeah.
And
So you didn't gravitate to people similar to you in that circumstance. You just kind of gravitated towards everyone still.
I think I gravitated towards people's heart for Christ, but there
That's
wasn't a
important.
gravitation towards a specific denomination or a specific person because of the way that they believed. I think everything was very like new and fresh to me, like how they saw Christ. It was like very interesting. I feel like a lot of people can relate, but when you get to college, it's almost like you step out of a bubble.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
and you see different perspectives, and I think that like translates into faith as well. While I was at school, because like people were coming, like some were Catholic people, some were coming from like Europe, right? Some were like struggling with homosexuality and very honest about where they were at with Christ. In relation to that, some people were struggling with addictions. Like, I mean, I can't really like speak for other colleges because I didn't go there, but it did almost seem as though we had a very variety of people like they just experience like life very radically, you know. And then yeah, I think in that way like God was like faithful because I've met people in my life that I still talk to this day that still pour into me. And then my time at getting into going to Amsterdam, right? Like so that was like me living out in faith because my parents did not want me to go to like an internship or a workplace outside of the US. But like I think I felt very strongly called to like go work at this place in Amsterdam or like just be I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know what it was, but I felt very called to go there and like I was a college student. I had no funds, like financial funds to get there. But then I remember someone telling me like if God means for you to go, he'll make a way. Legit like I accepted the internship and I still didn't have a plane ticket. I didn't have like a place to stay. A week before this like competition gets released and they say that if you win first place you get $10,000. It was a competition. There's no way I was guaranteed first place amongst like all these talented people. I apply it and I get first place, and it's like that's like freaking crazy. And like in that span of a week, I get a flight ticket to Amsterdam and a place to stay. And I think that's like wild because I think that truly shows that like in his timing, he like gives you the equipment or toolkits necessary to do whatever he like wills, And then you get to Amsterdam, right? And like it was also a very like unique experience. I had to like trust in him a lot. Like, I mean, can you imagine like a small like Asian girl like going to like Amsterdam by herself?
Yeah.
Like, even like moving in was so difficult. I had 2 huge suitcases. Each suitcase weighed more than me. And I had to go. My room.
Those are heavy suitcases.
My room was on the 6th floor, and let me tell you, the stairs.
No.
Oh shoot! But the stairs were steep AF because they're old, and they don't have no elevators in that kind of building. So, I mean, I was like kind of designing my way out of problems, but I had to like sled on that joint. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, wow, that is creative and a little dangerous, but
I had no choice. How was I gonna carry like something 20 pounds more heavier than me?
you could ask someone for help, but no,
I didn't know anyone. That was the thing.
sorry.
No, but like in those moments, I think like maybe this is why people say travel alone too. But I think in those moments when you realize the only people you have is you yourself and God, like it really pushes you out of your comfort zone to like have faith.
To get muscles to carry stuff upstairs.
I mean, that's just like one example of like how I was like in a situation where I wasn't prepared for. But I think God was faithful to me in my season of like in terms of workplace, because while I was in Amsterdam, I met like celebrities or people that I see on Instagram on the streets, like by chance, coincidentally, and become friends with them, like talk with them, network with them. I would like, work with different brands that like I wouldn't imagine working with. I would see like parts of the industry that I never thought I would see. And then even like my time of getting into like New Balance. My friend applied to the Pencil Co-op New Balance thing like 5 times and he didn't get in. And then on my first try, like I somehow got in, which is like wild, because there's so many talented people applying to that. And my whole time there, it's like crazy because 4 out of the 5 people were Christian and we're just like cracked because we're not only were they all talented, but they would pull a strength from a different source, which is God. And we would be working 24/7, like at a hotel together, just trying to create like good work.
I don't think labor law is how long were you in Amsterdam? How long were you in Amsterdam?
Oh, this is like such a hard question because
I don't think that's a hard question. I think that is one answer.
No. I went back and forth.
Oh, okay.
A lot. So like for college, senior year, we have something called thesis, and you can kind of like basically do whatever you want. So I took this class. This one class was the most like logistic arranged, organized
Yeah.
out of like all the
of
other
those
classes
sorts,
I
yeah.
had.
Mhm.
And we would have to travel to Rotterdam, which is also in the Netherlands. And I was there for like a good like 6 months, and then I came back and would go back. So it was like 6 to 8 months while I was like being in Amsterdam.
Wow, that's a good amount of time. Did you find a church there?
Yeah, the first church I visited, I had to travel 2 hours to get to.
Oh, I feel like there are different options, but
No, there's not many Christians in the
really?
Netherlands. Yeah,
Wow.
there is like not many churches at all.
So how did you survive like spiritually in the Netherlands?
Beginning, it was very hard, but I was like very adamant about finding a good church. Not a good church, just a church
Any
to go
church
to.
that exists, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then I ended up settling at like this very charismatic church. I think I'm more charismatic than most, but I'm not technically a charismatic denomination. I mean, like, yeah, like Baptist, Presbyterians, like not super charismatic, right?
We are all PCA.
Yeah. Yeah, but because I didn't have much options, and I was just glad to be around people who like loved Christ. And that was like very unique. Even small group, like the prayer sessions, they would like pray out of the Bible. It was like crazy. And there was like a lot of things that happened there where people would speak truth into you, and there's like no way they would have known anything about my life in that way, but they just like knew. Like they were practicing like spiritual gifts there. But it was crazy because in a way it like shows how alive and working and real the Holy Spirit is. That oftentimes I feel like it's so easy to forget here. And I think during my time there was when I think God really like poured into me in that way, really like showing me what it means to place like my trust in Christ. I mean, I only had him to like rely on
Sure.
in Europe
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So it's like very different when like he takes everything away from you and the only thing you really have is God.
That sounds like a really tough but
Rewarding.
rewarding experience. Yeah. I'm sure you got a lot about that, and that's carried to where you are today, right?
Oh yeah. Like I think there was a moment in Germany. This is not the kidnapping story, but
Okay,
there was a
okay.
moment in Germany.
You can't just drop the kidnapping story on us. That's okay. Next time.
No, like yeah, next time. But in Germany, like they didn't really speak English. I don't know, like I mean, I guess it was very pretentious of me to assume that everyone in the world speaks English, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't speak English, and I got on this bus, and I didn't have enough money. I thought like you could just use a card to like you know. They kicked me off the bus in the middle of nowhere, and like I had to walk like for hours till I saw a village, till I saw humans. Imagine like walking with like a suitcase for hours and hours, not knowing when this was gonna end. Can you imagine? It was almost like walking with no hope.
Wow, that sounds like a metaphor, but real life. That's like you found
No.
a city, you found a town.
Yeah, yo, that town was sketchy. Yeah, it was a town full of refugees. I mean, I was glad to see humans, but also like it was pretty sketchy, and like no one there also spoke English, and like I like went inside this like cafe, and like this waiter helped me, like this one guy who like spoke broken English to help me to call an Uber, because the Uber rider didn't speak English either. So that's how like I got kind of out of it at the end. But during that like walk, I wanted to give up so bad. Like
Well, the metaphor keeps getting deeper.
no, like because legit like first 30 minutes it's like shock, right? Like you can't believe this is happening to you. Like you're just like, oh, like you expect someone to come help you. You expect like a neighbor to show up, or like some town that like you would come across, but that didn't happen. I just had to keep walking for hours.
That's a lot of walking.
Yeah, no, but I think I questioned like life so hard at that moment.
Did you appreciate everything that was given to you up to that point?
Yeah, I did. And like but the reason why I bring this up is because like it was very hard for me in that moment. I like will go through hardships now, and I'll look back and I'm like, this is nothing.
Yeah, I totally get it. Totally get it.
No, because like I feel like God has placed me in a situation where I like only had him. It's easier now to be more confident about who you are in Christ, because you can trust that he's like got your back, because the past is evidence to God being sovereign to you, and how he will be sovereign, continue to be sovereign to you in the present and in the future.
Thank you for sharing that, Claire. I think that's such a testament to who you are today, and I can definitely see how that grew you to be the wonderful person you become. But going to our final question, final point, I was wondering if you had any particular person or people in mind that really shaped your walk as a Christian. Because, talking about a community-based podcast, figure ask you about your community.
I mean, okay, I don't know if this is a cop-out answer, but I really do believe that the biggest impact in my life has been God. Like, I'm not even...
Okay, no, that's fair. Go on.
Like, because, like, I would not be living right now if he didn't save me. He's, like, very real to me in that way. And I think a lot of the decisions that I make now, or, like, the people that I connect with, really, like, I do believe that he's working in every, like, connection that I, like, have. Like, I think he has changed the way I talk even, right? Like, I can't converse to a non-Christian and them ask me, like, oh, how are you so calm, without bringing up God into it, because that's just how, like, engraved he is in my life.
Part of you. Yeah.
So he is, like, the biggest impact that I have, like, and the reason why I do a lot of the things that I do.
Yeah, definitely not a cop-out answer. And I thank you for your honesty up to even get to that far. But yeah, thank you so much, Claire. It's been great having you. I hope you had a great time being here. Hope I wasn't being too formal.
Did
or
I feel
anything.
like we, like, scratched the surface?
Yeah, but
like, we didn't even get into New York Fashion Week.
Yeah, I know. I was like, well, we're never getting to this point, so I guess we'll just focus on episode 2. If you want Claire back on, guys, just give us a call and we'll have her expand or have a part 2 or something. But yeah, again, thank you, Claire, and yeah, let's call it a wrap. Woo!
Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. No problem.